May our Father, Messiah, and the Holy Spirit be with us, brothers and sisters. I pray that you are all doing well. We will be continuing with chapter 41, Ezekiel chapter 41. Afterward, he brought me to the temple and measured the posts, 6 cubits broad on one side, and 6 cubits broad on the other side, which was the breadth of the tabernacle. And the breadth of the door was 10 cubits, and the sides of the door were 5 cubits on the one side, and 5 cubits on the other side. And he measured the length thereof 40 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits. Then went he inward and measured the post of the door 2 cubits, and the door 6 cubits, and the breadth of the door 7 cubits. So he measured the length thereof 20 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits before the temple. And he said to me, This is the most holy place. After he measured the wall of the house 6 cubits, and the breadth of every side chamber 4 cubits round about the house on every side. And the side chambers were 3, one over another, and 30 in order. And they entered into the wall which was of the house for the side chambers round about, that they might have hold. But they had not hold in the wall of the house. Stop it. Forgive me, brothers and sisters. I'm talking to my dog. So he measured the length thereof 20 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits before the temple. And he said to me, I don't think I was there. Let's just go back to 3. Then went he inward and measured the post of the door 2 cubits, and the door 6 cubits, and the breadth of the door 7 cubits. And he measured the length thereof 20 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits before the temple. And he said to me, This is the most holy place. After he measured the wall of the house 6 cubits, and the breadth of every side chamber 4 cubits round about the house on every side. And the side chambers were 3, one over another, and 30 in order. And they entered into the wall which was of the house for the side chambers round about, that they might have hold. But they had not hold in the wall of the house. And there was an enlarging and a winding about still upward to the side chambers, for the winding about of the house went still upward round about the house. Therefore the breadth of the house was still upward, and so increased from the lowest chamber to the highest by the midst. I saw also the height of the house round about the foundations of the side chambers, were a full reed of 6 great cubits. The thickness of the wall which was for the side chamber without was 5 cubits, and that which was left was the place of the side chambers that were within. And between the chambers was the wideness of 20 cubits round about the house on every side. And the doors of the side chambers were toward the place that was left, one door toward the north, and another door toward the south. And the breadth of the place that was left was 5 cubits round about. Now the building that was before the separate place at the end toward the west was 70 cubits broad, and the wall of the building was 5 cubits thick round about, and the length thereof 90 cubits. So he measured the house, and 100 cubits long, and the separate place, and the building with the walls thereof 100 cubits long. Also the breadth of the face of the house, and of the separate place toward the east, 100 cubits. And he measured the length of the building over against the separate place which was behind it, and the galleries thereof, on the one side and on the other side, 100 cubits, with the inner temple and the porches of the court. The doorposts and the narrow windows and the galleries round about on their 3 stories, over against the door, sealed with wood round about, and from ground up to the wood to the windows, and the windows were covered. To that above the door, even to the inner house, and without, and by all the wall round about within and without by measure. And it was made with cherubims and palm trees, so that a palm tree was between a cherub and a cherub. And every cherub had 2 faces. 2, that the face of a man was toward the palm tree on the one side, and the face of a young lion toward the palm tree on the other side. It was made through all the house round about. From the ground to above the door were cherubims, and palm trees made, and on the wall of the temple. But the posts of the temple were squared, and the face of the sanctuary, the appearance of the one as the appearance of the other. The altar of wood was 3 cubits high, and the length thereof 2 cubits, and the corners thereof, and the length thereof, and the walls thereof were of wood. And he said to me, This is the table that is before our Father in heaven. And the temple and the sanctuary had 2 doors, and the doors had 2 leaves apiece, 2 turning leaves, 2 leaves for the one door, and 2 leaves for the other door. And there were made on them, on the doors of the temple, cherubims and palm trees, like as were made upon the walls. And there were thick planks upon the face of the porch without. And there were narrow windows and palm trees on the one side and on the other side, on the sides of the porch and upon the side chambers of the house, and thick planks. Chapter 42. Then he brought me forth into the utter court, the way toward the north, and he brought me into the chamber that was over against the separate place, and which was before the building toward the north. Before the length of 100 cubits was the north door, and the breadth was 50 cubits, over against the 20 cubits which were for the inner court, and over against the pavement which was for the utter court was gallery against gallery in 3 stories. And before the chambers was a walk of 10 cubits, breadth inward, a way of 1 cubit, and their doors toward the south. Now the upper chambers were shorter, for the galleries were higher than these, than the lower, and than the middlemost of the building. For they were in 3 stories, but had not pillars as the pillars of the courts. Therefore the building was straitened more than the lowest and the middlemost from the ground. And the wall that was without, over against the chambers, toward the utter court on the forepart of the chambers, the length thereof was 50 cubits. For the length of the chambers that were in the utter court was 50 cubits, and lo, before the temple were 100 cubits. And from under these chambers was the entry on the east side, as one goes into them from the utter court. The chambers were in the thickness of the wall of the court toward the east, over against the separate place, and over against the building. And the way before them was like the appearance of the chambers which were toward the north, as long as they, and as broad as they, and all their goings out were both according to their fashions, and according to their doors. And according to the doors of the chambers that were toward the south was a door in the head of the way, even the way directly before the wall toward the east, as one enters into them. Then said he to me, The north chambers and the south chambers which are before the separate place, they be holy chambers, where the priests that approach to our Father in heaven will eat the most holy things. There will they lay the most holy things, and the meat offering, and the sin offering, and the trespass offering, for the place is holy. When the priests enter therein, then will they not go out of the holy place into the utter court, but there they will lay their garments wherein they minister, for they are holy, and will put on another garment, and will put on other garments, and will approach to those things which are for the people. Not when he had made an end of measuring the inner house, he brought me forward toward the gate, whose prospect is toward the east, and measured it round about. He measured the east side with the measuring reed, 500 reeds, with the measuring reed round about. He measured the north side, 500 reeds, with a measuring reed round about. He measured the south side, 500 reeds, with the measuring reed. He turned about to the west side, and measured 500 reeds with the measuring reed. He measured it by the four sides. It had a wall round about, 500 reeds long and 500 broad, to make a separation between the sanctuary and the profane place. Chapter 43. Afterward he brought me to the gate, even the gate that looks toward the east. And behold, the glory of our Father in heaven of Israel came from the way of the east, and his voice was like a noise of many waters, and the earth shined with his glory. And it was according to the appearance of the vision which I saw, even according to the vision that I saw when I came to destroy the city. And the visions were like the vision that I saw by the river Chebar. And I fell upon my face. And the glory of our Father in heaven came into the house by the way of the gate, whose prospect is toward the east. So the Spirit took me up and brought me into the inner court. And behold, the glory of our Father in heaven filled the house, and I heard him speaking to me out of the house. And the man stood by me. And he said to me, Son of man, the place of my throne and the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever. And my holy name will be the house of Israel, no more defiled, neither they nor their kings, by their whoredom, nor by the carcasses of their kings in their high places, in their setting of their threshold, by my thresholds, and their posts by my posts, and the wall between me and them. They have even defiled my holy name by their abominations that they have committed. Wherefore I have consumed them in my anger. Now let them put away their whoredom, and the carcasses of their kings far from me, and I will dwell in the midst of them forever. You, son of man, show the house to the house of Israel, that they may be ashamed of their iniquities, and let them measure the pattern. And if they be ashamed of all that they have done, show them the form of the house and the fashion thereof, and the goings out thereof, and the comings in thereof, and all the forms thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and all the forms thereof, and all the laws thereof, and write it in their sight, that they may keep the whole form thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and do them. This is the law of the house upon the top of the mountain. The whole limit thereof round about will be most holy. Behold, this is the law of the house. And these are the measures of the altar after the cubits. The cubit is a cubit and an handbreadth. Even the bottom will be a cubit, and the breadth a cubit, and the border thereof by the edge thereof round about will be a span. And this will be the higher place of the altar. And from the bottom upon the ground, even to the lower settle, will be 2 cubits, and the breadth 1 cubit. And from the lesser settle even to the greater settle will be 4 cubits, and the breadth 1 cubit. So the altar will be 4 cubits, and from the altar and upward will be 4 horns. And the altar will be 12 cubits long, 12 broad, square in the 4 squares thereof. And the settle will be 14 cubits long and 14 broad in the 4 squares thereof. And the border about it will be half a cubit, and the bottom thereof will be a cubit about, and his stairs will look toward the east. And he said to me, Son of man, this says our Father in heaven, these are the ordinances of the altar in the day when they will make it to offer burnt offerings thereon, and to sprinkle blood thereon. And you will give to the priests the Levites, that be of the seed of Zadok, which approach to me to minister to me, says our Father in heaven, a young bullock for a sin offering. And you will take of the blood thereof, and put it on the 4 horns of it, and on the 4 corners of the settle, and upon the border round about. This will you cleanse it and purge it. You will take the bullock also of the sin offering, and he will burn it in the appointed place of the house, without the sanctuary. And on the second day you will offer a kid of the goats without blemish for a sin offering, and they will cleanse the altar, and they did cleanse it with the bullock. When you have made an end of cleansing it, you will offer a young bullock without blemish, and a ram out of the flock without blemish. And you will offer them before our Father in heaven, and the priests will cast salt upon them, and they will offer them up for a burnt offering to our Father in heaven. 7 days will you prepare every day a goat for a sin offering. They will also prepare a young bullock and a ram out of the flock without blemish. 7 days will they purge the altar and purify it, and they will consecrate themselves. And when these days are expired, it will be that upon the 8th day, and so forward, the priests will make your burnt offerings upon the altar and your peace offerings, and I will accept you, says our Father in heaven. Chapter 44. Then he brought me back the way of the gate of the outward sanctuary, which looks toward the east, and it was shut. Then said our Father in heaven to me, This gate will be shut, it will not be opened, and no man will enter in by it, because our Father, the Elohim of Israel, has entered in by it. Therefore it will be shut. It is for the prince. The prince, he will sit in it to eat bread before our Father in heaven. He will enter by the way of the porch of that gate, and will go out by the way of the same. Then brought he me the way of the north gate before the house, and I looked, and behold, the glory of our Father in heaven filled the house of our Father, and I fell upon my face. And our Father said to me, Son of man, mark well, and behold with your eyes, and hear with your ears all that I say to you concerning all the ordinances of the house of our Father in heaven, and all the laws thereof. And mark well the entering in of the house, with every going forth of the sanctuary. And you will say to the rebellious, even to the house of Israel, This says our Father in heaven, O you house of Israel, let it suffice you of all your abominations, in that you have brought into my sanctuary strangers, uncircumcised in heart and uncircumcised in flesh, to be in my sanctuary, to pollute it, even my house. Will you offer my bread, the fat and the blood? And they have broken my covenant because of all your abominations. You have not kept the charge of my holy things, but you have set keepers of my charge in my sanctuary for yourselves. This says our Father in heaven, No stranger, uncircumcised in heart, nor uncircumcised in flesh, will enter into my sanctuary, of any stranger that is among the children of Israel. And the Levites that are gone away from me, when Israel went astray, which went astray away from me after their idols, they will even bear their iniquity. Yet they will be ministers in my sanctuary, having charge at the gates of the house, and ministering to the house. They will slay the burnt offering and the sacrifice for the people, and they will stand before them to minister to them, because they ministered to them before their idols, and caused the house of Israel to fall into iniquity. Therefore have I lifted up my hand against them, says our Father in heaven, and they will bear their iniquity, and they will not come near to me to do the to do the office of a priest to me, nor to come near to any of my holy things in the most holy place. But they will bear their shame and their abominations which they have committed. But I will make them keepers of the charge of the house, for all the service thereof, and for all that will be done therein. For the priests, the Levites, the sons of Zadok, that kept the charge of my sanctuary, when the children of Israel went astray from me, they will come near to me to minister to me, and they will stand before me to offer to me the fat and the blood, says our Father in heaven. They will enter into my sanctuary, and they will come near to my table to minister to me, and they will keep my charge. And it will come to pass that when they enter in at the gates of the inner court, they will be clothed with linen garments, and no wool will come upon them while they minister in the gates of the inner court and within. They will have linen bonnets upon their heads, and will have linen breeches upon their loins. They will not they will not gird themselves with anything that causes sweat. And when they go forth into the utter court, even into the utter court to the people, they will put off their garments wherein they ministered, and lay them in the holy chambers. And they will put on other garments, and they will not sanctify the people with their garments. Neither will they shave their heads, nor suffer their locks to grow long. They will only poll their heads. Neither will any priest drink wine when they enter into the inner court. Neither will they take for their wives a widow, nor her that is put away, but they will take maidens of the seed of the house of Israel, or a widow that had a priest before. And they will teach my people the difference between the holy and profane, and cause them to discern between the unclean and the clean. And in controversy they will stand in judgment, and they will judge it according to my judgments. And they will keep my laws and my statutes in all my assemblies, and they will hallow my Sabbaths. And they will come at no dead person to defile themselves, but for father, or for mother, or for son, or for daughter, for brother, or for sister that has had no husband, they may defile themselves. And after he is cleansed, they will reckon to him 7 days. And in the day that he goes into the sanctuary, to the inner court, to minister in the sanctuary, he will offer his sin offerings as our Father in heaven, and it will be to them for an inheritance. I am their inheritance, and you will give them no possession in Israel. I am their possession. They will eat the meat offering, and the sin offering, and the trespass offering, and every dedicated thing in Israel will be theirs. And the first of all, the first fruits of all things, and every oblation of every sort of your oblations will be the priests. You will also give to the priest the first of your dough, that he may cause the blessing to rest in your house. The priest will not eat of anything that is dead of itself or torn, whether it be fowl or beast. Chapter 45. Moreover, when you will divide by lot the land for inheritance, you will offer an oblation to our Father in heaven, an holy portion of the land. The length will be the length of 25,000 reeds, and the breadth will be 10,000. They will be holy in all the borders thereof round about. Of this there will be for the sanctuary 500 in length, with 500 in breadth, square round about, and 50 cubits round about for the suburbs thereof. And of this measure will you measure the length of 25,000, and the breadth of 10,000, and in it will be the sanctuary and the most holy place. The holy portion of the land will be for the priests, the ministers of the sanctuary, which will come near to minister to our Father in heaven, and it will be a place for their houses, and an holy place for the sanctuary. And the 25,000 of length, and the 10,000 of breadth, will also the Levites, the ministers of the house, have for themselves for a possession for 20 chambers. And you will appoint the possession of the city 5,000 broad, and 25,000 long, over against the oblation of the holy portion. It will be for the whole house of Israel. And a portion will be for the prince on the one side, and on the other side of the oblation of the holy portion, and of the possession of the city before the oblation of the holy portion, and before the possession of the city, from the west side westward, and from the east side eastward, and the length will be over against one of the portions from the west border to the east border. And the land will be his possession in Israel, and my princes will no more oppress my people, and the rest of the land will they give to the house of Israel according to their tribes. This says our Father in heaven, let it suffice you, O princes of Israel. Remove violence and spoil, and execute judgment and justice. Take away your exactions from my people, says our Father in heaven. You will have just balances and a just ephah and a just bath. The ephah and the bath will be of one measure, that the bath may contain the 10th part of an omer, and the ephah the 10th part of an homer. The measure thereof will be after the homer, and the shekel will be 20 gerahs, 20 shekels, 25 shekels, 15 shekels will be your mane. This is the oblation that you will offer, the 6th part of an ephah of an homer of wheat, and you will give the 6th part of an ephah of an homer of barley. Concerning the ordinance of oil, the bath of oil, you will offer the 10th part of a bath out of the core, which is an which is an homer of 10 baths. For 10 baths are an homer, and 1 lamb out of the flock, out of 200, out of the fat pastures of Israel, for a meat offering, and for a burnt offering, and for peace offerings, to make reconciliation for them, says our Father in heaven. All the people of the land will give this oblation for the prince in Israel, and it will be the princes to give burnt offerings, and meat offerings, and drink offerings, in the feasts, and in the new moons, and in the Sabbaths, and all solemnities of the house of Israel. He will prepare the sin offering, and the meat offering, and the burnt offering, and the peace offerings, to make reconciliation for the house of Israel. This says our Father in heaven. In the 1st month and the 1st day of the month, you will take a young bullock without blemish and cleanse the sanctuary. And the priest will take of the blood of the sin offering and put it upon the posts of the house, and upon the 4 corners of the settle of the altar, and upon the posts of the gate of the inner court. And so you will do the 7th day of the month for every one that errs, and for him that is simple, so will you reconcile the house. In the 1st month, and the 14th day of the month, you will have the Passover, a feast of 7 days. Unleavened bread will be eaten, and upon that day will the princes prepare, and upon that day will the prince prepare for himself and for all the people of the land a bullock for a sin offering. In 7 days of the feast he will prepare a burnt offering to our Father in heaven, 7 bullocks and 7 rams without blemish, daily the 7 days, and a kid of the goats daily for a sin offering. And he will prepare a meat offering of an ephah for a bullock, and an ephah for a ram, and an hin of oil for an ephah. In the 7th month and the 15th day of the month will he do the like in the feast of the 7 days, according to the sin offering, according to the burnt offering, and according to the meat offering, and according to the oil. Chapter 46. This says our Father in heaven, the gate of the inner court that looks toward the east will be shut the 6 working days, but on the Sabbath it will be opened, and in the day of the new moon it will be opened. And the prince will enter by the way of the porch of that gate without, and will stand by the post of the gate. And the priest will prepare his burnt offering and his peace offerings, and he will worship at the threshold of the gate. Then he will go forth, but the gate will not be shut until the evening. Likewise, the people of the land will worship at the door of this gate before our Father in heaven, in the Sabbaths and in the new moons. And the burnt offering that the prince will offer to our Father in heaven in the Sabbath day will be 6 lambs without blemish, and a ram without blemish. And the meat offering will be an ephah for a ram, and the meat offering for the lambs, as he will be able to give, and an hin of oil to an ephah. And in the day of the new moon it will be a young bullock without blemish, and 6 lambs and a ram. They will be without blemish. And he will prepare a meat offering, an ephah for a bullock, and an ephah for a ram, and for the lambs according as his hand will attain to, an hin of oil to an ephah. And when the prince will enter, he will go in by the way of the porch of that gate, and he will go forth by the way thereof. But when the people of the land will come before our father in the solemn feast, he that enters in by the way of the north gate to worship will go out by the way of the south gate, and he that enters by the way of the south gate will go forth by the way of the north gate. He will not enter by the way of the gate whereby he came in, but will go forth over against it. And the prince in the midst of them, when they go in, will go in, and when they go forth, will go forth. And in the feasts and in the solemnities, the meat offering will be an ephah to a bullock, and an ephah to a ram, and to the lambs, as he is able to give, an hin of oil to an ephah. Now when the prince will prepare a voluntary burnt offering or peace offerings voluntarily to our Father in heaven, one will then open him the gate that looks toward the east, and he will prepare his burnt offering and his peace offerings, as he did on the Sabbath day. Then he will go forth, and after his going forth, one will shut the gate. You will daily prepare a burnt offering to our Father in heaven of a lamb of the first year without blemish. You will prepare it every morning, and you will prepare a meat offering for it every morning, the 6th part of an ephah, and the 3rd part of an hin of oil, to temper with the fine flour, a perpetual ordinance to our Father in heaven. This will they prepare the lamb and the meat offering and the oil every morning for a continual burnt offering. This as our Father in heaven. If the if the prince give a gift to any of his sons, the inheritance thereof will be his sons. It will be their possession by inheritance. But if he give a gift of his inheritance to one of his servants, then it will be his to the year of liberty. After it will return to the prince, but his inheritance will be his sons for them. Moreover, the prince will not take of the people's inheritance by oppression to thrust them out of their possession, but he will give his sons inheritance out of his own possession, that my people be not scattered every man from his possession. After he brought me through the entry which was at the side of the gate into the holy chambers of the priests, which looked toward the north, and behold, there was a place on the 2 sides westward. Then said he to me, This is the place where the priests will boil the trespass offering and the sin offering, where they will bake the meat offering, and they will bear them not out into the utter court to sanctify the people. Then he brought me forth into the utter court, and caused me to pass by the 4 corners of the court. And behold, in every corner of the court there was a court. In the 4 corners of the court there was courts joined by 40 cubits long and 30 broad. These 4 corners were of one measure. And there was a row of building round about them 4, and it was made with boiling places under the rows round about. Then said he to me, These are the places of them that boil, where the ministers of the house will boil the sacrifice of the people. Chapter 47. Afterward, he brought me again to the door of the house, and behold, the waters issued out from under the threshold of the house eastward, for the forefront of the house stood toward the east, And the waters came down from the right side of the house at the south side of the altar. Then brought he me out of the way of the gate northward, and led me about the way without to the utter gate by the way that looks eastward. And behold, there ran out waters on the right side. And when the man that had the line in his hand went forth eastward, he measured 1,000 cubits, and he brought me through the waters. The waters were to the ankles. Again he measured 1,000, and brought me through the waters. The waters were to the knees. Again he measured 1,000, and brought me through. The waters were to the loins. Afterward he measured 1,000, and it was a river that I could not pass over, for the waters were risen, waters to swim in, a river that could not be passed over. And he said to me, Son of man, have you seen this? Then he brought me and caused me to return to the brink of the river. Now when I had returned, behold, at the bank of the river were very many trees on the one side and on the other. Then said he to me, These waters issue out toward the east country, and go down into the desert, and go into the sea, which being brought forth into the sea, the waters will be healed. And it will come to pass that everything that lives which moves wherever the rivers will come will live. And there will be a very great multitude of fish, because these waters will come there, for they will be healed, and everything will live wherever the river comes. And it will come to pass that the fishers will stand upon it from En-gedi, even to En-eglaim. There will be a place to spread forth nets. Their fish will be according to their kinds, as the fish of the great sea, exceeding many. But the miry places thereof, and the marishes thereof, will not be healed. They will be given to salt. And by the river upon the bank thereof, on this side and on that side, will grow all trees for meat, whose leaf will not fade, neither will the fruit thereof be consumed. It will bring forth new fruit according to his months, because their waters they issued out of the sanctuary, and the fruit thereof will be for meat, and the leaf thereof for medicine. This says our Father in heaven. This will be the border whereby you will inherit the land according to the 12 tribes of Israel. Joseph will have 2 portions, and you will inherit it, one as well as another, concerning the which I have lifted up my hand to give it to your fathers. And this land will fall to you for inheritance, and this will be the border of the land toward the north side, from the great sea, the way of Hethlon, as men go to Zedad. Hamath, Berotha, Simraim, which is between the border of Damascus and the border of Hamath, Hazar Hatikon, which is by the coast of Haran, and the border from the sea will be Hazaranan, the border of Damascus, and the northward, and the border of Hamath, and this is the north side. And the east side you will measure from Haran, and from Damascus, and from Gilead, and from the land of Israel by Jordan, from the border to the east sea, and this is the east sea. And the south side southward from Tamar, even to the waters of strife in Kadesh, the river to the great sea. And this is the south side southward. The west side also will be the great sea from the border till a man come over against Hamath. This is the west side. So will you divide this land to you according to the tribes of Israel. And it will come to pass that you will divide it by lot for an inheritance to you and to the strangers that sojourn among you, which will beget children among you. And they will be to you as born in the country among the children of Israel. They will have inheritance with you among the tribes of Israel. And it will come to pass that in what tribe the stranger sojourns, there will you give him his inheritance, says our Father in heaven. Chapter 48. Now these are the names of the tribes, from the north end to the coast of the way of Hethlon, as one goes to Hamath, Hazarenan, the border of Damascus northward to the coast of Hamath, for these are his sides, east and west, a portion for Dan. And by the border of Dan from the east side to the west side, a portion for Asher, and by the border of Asher from the east side even to the west side, a portion of Naphtali. And by the border of Naphtali from the east side to the west side, a portion for Manasseh. And by the border of Manasseh from the east side to the west side, a portion for Ephraim. And by the border of Ephraim, the east side even to the west side, a portion for Reuben. And by the border of Reuben from the east side to the west side, a portion for Judah. And by the border of Judah from the east side to the west side will be the offering which you will offer of 25,000 reeds in breadth and in length as one of the other parts, from the east side to the west side, and the sanctuary will be in the middle of it. The oblation that you will offer to our Father in heaven will be of the 25,000 in length, and of 10,000 in breadth. And for them, even for the priests, will be this holy oblation: toward the north 25,000 in length, and toward the west 10,000 in breadth, and toward the east 10,000 in breadth, and toward the south 25,000 in length. And the sanctuary of our Father will be in the middle of it, and it will be in the middle thereof. It will be for the priests that are sanctified of the sons of Zadok, which have kept my charge, which went not astray, when the children of Israel went astray, as the Levites went astray. And this oblation of the land that is offered will be to them a thing most holy by the border of the Levites. And over against the border of the priests, the Levites will have 25,000 in length, and 10,000 in breadth. All the length will be 25,000, and the breadth 10,000. And they will not sell of it, neither exchange nor alienate the first fruits of the land, for it is holy to our Father in heaven. And the 5,000 that are left in the breadth over against the 25,000 will be a profane place for the city, for dwelling and for suburbs. And the city will be in the midst thereof. And these will be the measures thereof: the north side 4,500, and the south side 4,500, and on the east side 4,500, and the west side 4,500. And the suburbs of the city will be toward the north 250, and toward the south 250, and toward the east 250, and toward the west 250. And the residue in length over against the oblation of the holy portion will be 10,000 eastward and 10,000 westward, and it will be over against the oblation of the holy portion. And the increase thereof will be for food to them that serve the city. And they that serve the city will serve it out of all the tribes of Israel. All the oblation will be 25,000 by 25,000. You will offer the holy oblation foursquare with the possession of the city. And the residue will be for the prince on the one side, and on the other side, and on the other of the holy oblation, and of the possession of the city over against the 25,000 of the oblation toward the east border, and westward over against the 25,000 toward the west border, over against the portions for the prince. And it will be the holy oblation, and the sanctuary of the house will be in the midst thereof. Moreover, from the possession of the Levites and from the possession of the city, being in the midst of that which is the prince's, between the border of Judah and the border of Benjamin, will be for the prince. As for the rest of the tribes, from the east side to the west side, Benjamin will have a portion. And by the border of Benjamin, from the east side to the west side, Simeon will have a portion. And by the border of Simeon, from the east side to the west side, Issachar a portion. And by the border of Issachar, from the east side to the west side, Zebulun a portion. And by the border of Zebulun, from the east side to the west side, Gad a portion. And by the border of Gad at the south side, southward, the border will be even from Tamar to the waters of strife in Kadesh, and in the river toward the great sea. This is the land which you will divide by lot to the tribes of Israel for inheritance. And these are the portions, says our Father in heaven. And these are the goings out of the city on the north side, 4,500 measures. And the gates of the city will be after the names of the tribes of Israel, 3 gates northward, 1 gate of Reuben, 1 gate of Judah, 1 gate of Levi, and on the east side 4,500 and 3 gates, and 1 gate of Joseph, 1 gate of Benjamin, 1 gate of Dan, and on the south side 4,500 measures, and the 3 gates, 1 gate of Simeon, 1 gate of Issachar, 1 gate of Zebulun, at the west side 4,500, with their 3 gates, 1 gate of Gad, 1 gate of Asher, 1 gate of Naphtali. It was round about 18,000 measures, and the name of the city from that day will be Our Father is There. And Father willing, brothers and sisters, we will continue with the book of Daniel. May our Father, Messiah, and the Holy Spirit be with us. Repent, the kingdom of heaven is near. Peace.